Hello everybody, Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas. I'm going to do a video today about the oil show party murders. That's plural, more than one, and a lot of evidence I'm going to go over. I'm going to send this to our Mayor Blong and to city council members. I've been sending it to Corrales and a few other ones. Here I got a little write-up here, and this is a little longer than normal, but it's a long story. The Permian Basin International Oil Show is a week-long industry convention held in Odessa, Texas, and every other year. It is every other year. The after-hour parties that go on during this week are infamous for drinking, drugs, and prostitution. I've heard about them all my life, but I've never been to one. And that's pretty common if you're in Vegas for an industry convention. I'm now convinced that these parties were being held in the secret underground homes in Midland, Texas, and based on old Google Maps, one of those homes is located in my backyard. It's believed that they were put on by wealthy oil men. I believe that the people going to these parties were parking in the Midland Home Depot parking lot after it closed and then going underground somewhere in the store before coming back to my home via a tunnel that can be seen from historical Google Earth maps. On July 2nd, 2019, I met Homeland Security Agent Paul Cervantes at the Home Depot store, and I showed him where I believe this tunnel was located. 2 weeks later, the ground was dug up and concrete was poured there. It looks like this tunnel is now full of concrete in an effort to cover up the many crimes and murders connected with the underground homes and parties. Some of those crimes would be capital. Based on evidence found, I believe the previous owner of my home, Mike Lawhon, was murdered here and then taken to Fort Worth the week before the 2008 oil show parties were going to start in his backyard. That's when he died. It's unknown if he knew it was there, but I was told that he was telling people that somebody was breaking into his home before he died, and that's the same crimes that I reported before they cut my phone lines and shot me from under my house. In October 2010, my friend Angie Magia Hurley was leaving my home, and at the oil show parties in 5 minutes. I know this because we were talking on the phone while she drove there. It's a 5-minute drive from my home to the Home Depot parking lot. Angie and I would talk on the phone some while she was at those parties, and at 11 o'clock each night, she would tell me to wait while she went and got her peel. This would make her groggy, and she would fall asleep a little bit later. The sex traffickers at those parties were systematically drugging the women and the girls there. Another woman told me that she was 16, 17 at the time of the 2010 oil show parties and confirmed that they were drugging the women and girls there. She told me she went to all of the parties from 2008 to 2019 and that the men would prefer the younger girls over the elder women. I had already suspected that child sex trafficking was going on at those parties. I found out that Billy Dunn, the mother of the famous missing murdered child Haley Dunn from Colorado City, Texas, about 80 miles from here, was a stripper in the area. And Janice Freeman Driver told me that she got it from a reliable source that Billy had been taking Haley to the strip clubs with her. It makes sense that all of the strippers in the area, Billy Dunn, were at the oil show parties, and since Billy was taking Haley to the strip clubs, I suspected that she also took her to the parties. That would put them in my backyard in October 2010, 2 months before Haley went missing. I'm sure the wealthy and powerful people at those parties wouldn't want anybody to find out this famous 13-year-old Texas cheerleader was there with them. That may explain the cover-up that's gone on with that case. During the week of the 2010 oil show, Angie told me about a young girl that didn't want to prostitute, and then she didn't wake up. I tried to get Angie to report this murder and even offered to go with her, but she was afraid and told me that high-level police were also at those parties. Just recently, a guy in West Odessa told me that the woman that died at the oil show party, yeah, the one with the big titties, that's what she said. That's what he told me, and said it was somehow related to Jackie Thompson, his girlfriend or something. I suspected that one of those high-level police was the late Sheriff Gary Painter after recording Sheriff candidate Joe Lozano telling me that the underground homes had been Painter's hideout. I've also suspected 11 former secret police that had been caught on camera in my home or at my home after I was shot by somebody under my home with my phone lines cut have been to those parties too. It took 6 years and a $2,000 reward to get them identified. And we don't want to forget the proof that was showing five MPD officers, Davis, Diggy, Chatwell, Angel, and Hale, were under my home on the night that I was shot by somebody under my home. I've also suspected that Martin County Sheriff John Woodward and the late Midland County Deputy Mike Naylor were also under my home that night. Possibly so was MPD Detective Rosie Rodriguez and April Chandler, since they were caught tampering with evidence and falsifying the police report. Another suspicious death connected with the 2010 Old Show parties was Sean Williams. I found out that he died on the last day of the 2010 Old Show. His widow, Timber Williamson, told me that he committed suicide, but another woman told me that Timber was suspected of killing him. She said that they were separated at the time, and she couldn't verify his whereabouts when the Old Show parties were going on. I suspected the multi-billion-dollar oil companies have been bribing elected leaders and law enforcement for their help in covering up these underground homes and the oil show parties. Interestingly, the first owner of my home, Randy Offenberger, was an engineer for Pioneer, and it was then when it was believed that the underground homes was put in. And I've seen in the news where Pioneer has donated huge sums of money to our local law enforcement that hasn't done anything about these crimes and murders. My company was DCP Midstream, which is half owned by Duke Energy and owned by Duke Energy and ConocoPhillips. That's what it stands for, DCP. I reported 5 coworkers to my supervisor, Dane Wiggins, the year before I was shot, because I believe they knew who was breaking into my home. I now believe the reason they knew is because of the oil show parties going on in the underground home in my backyard. Before I moved here, a former commercial director for my company, DCP, whose name is Ken Sliger, lived across the street, and his group took care of our booth at the oil show. All of our landmen reported to the commercial group, and I suspected that some landmen were connected with the oil show parties. In fact, I believe that landman attorney Matt Hyman was electrocuted in my home on January 14, 2012, 2 weeks before the murder attempt of my life. 2 of his friends, Brian Hillman and Chris Mertz, who also are landmans, threatened me in a desperate attempt to stop me from asking questions about Matt's death. And finally, Jessica Lee Hadley told me, I've been to 2,000 oilfield shows, and I'll tell you what, there's more than just that one that was murdered or raped because she didn't do whatever they wanted her to do. I'm going to show you the print screens, and we're not going to listen to the recordings, but here's on just some print screens I grabbed. Chris Reed posted on Old Midland. He says, when I first moved to Midland working with the multi-billion-dollar oil company, I'm hearing talk of those huge secret parties, and I believe they were in them underground homes. Tisha Ann Wilkinson Brumley says, I've had friends have been involved in those oil show parties. They're exactly what you say. There are underground homes. And her sister used to go to them. Okay. Jessica Lee Hadley, I told you about that one, said that there's more than one girl murdered or raped. Victoria McKinney, the late Victoria McKinney, says, I know someone that was brutally raped at the show years ago. That was enough for me to stay away. These are famous, folks. I mean, famous, you know. We just got started, too. Here's a young girl, says, I was a former escort, went to almost every oil show in Midland, Odessa, 2008, 2019, and then goes on to say, I was 16, 17 at the time, and they would prefer us younger girls other than elder women. And she also confirmed that they were drugging the women, because, see, that's what Angie told me. And she was there at those parties, you know, that's what she's saying. This one, Brandy Bennett says, asking about the girl that died at the party, says there was supposed to be one scene in the background of Haley oil party video and showing her freaking out and being restrained with hand covering her mouth and a woman giving her a shot. That's what Brandy Bennett said. See, covering her mouth and a woman giving her a shot, and that was at a Haley oil party video. So you see how important law enforcement could ask Brandy, what'd you say, you know, or threaten her, say, yeah, if you say anything or don't change your story, then we're gonna frame you and throw you in jail or whatever. Victoria McKinney, I know someone was brutally raped at the show years ago. I showed you that one already. Okay. Here we go. There's Tisha's we already went over, and her sister had been to the old show parties, confirmed that underground homes. Jessica again. And here I want to show them, this was Google Maps. And you look up my home, 3802 Fair Circle, there it is. My backyard, you don't see nothing. But you whip over to the map screen, and all of a sudden there's a big bunker in the backyard. I notified the city of Midland about this, and it was deleted from Google Maps. But I got print screens of it. It was there for sure. I'm going to show you how close it is. Here's the Home Depot store, and right behind my home, right here, it's right behind my home. It's where the Home Depot store. And you know, Angie was at the parties in 5 minutes. So she just go here, drive, boom. You just go around Midland Drive, back behind Target, and there you are, the parking lot of Home Depot. Okay. Another woman says, I used to drive by Home Depot late at night, and I would see the parking lot full of cars. I wondered what was going on, and then they were having parties when it was going on, you know. And then I was telling the clerk about being shot behind the Home Depot store, and she says, if you ever see a lot of cars in the parking lot late at night, it's because we're stalking, you know. And so, I mean, I'm sure that's what's happening. The people at the wholesale parties were parking here, going in this store, going underground here, and you could see the tunnel that was cut coming to my house, and in the backyard is one of the 4 secret underground homes, okay. Here's the Home Depot store. Here you can see where the ground's stuck. See where the asphalt's a different color right here? That's where they cut it, going right to my house. Another woman's recorded saying, it's by your den, right by your den. If you project this out, it's right by my den. I mean, that's what it is. This is the tunnel, I believe. And here's in the backyards where the underground home is where they were going to the wholesale parties, okay? And I showed this to Homeland Security because it's I believe, a human trafficking murder tunnel, right? A smuggling tunnel. And 2 weeks later, they dug up the ground and was pouring concrete. That was a DHS agent, Paul Cervantes. They should be asking him questions, you know. I reported him to the U.S. Inspector General over that. The 2008 oil show, okay, here's the schedule. And the week after, the week before the oil show, Mike Lawhon dies, the previous owner of my home. Now that's coincidental, ain't it? And there's even more about Lawhon here. There he is, and his obituary, 27 years old. There's a whole bunch of evidence, a whole bunch of story about Mike, but he was reporting the same crimes, people breaking into his house that I was reporting. Maybe that's why they murdered him. You know, maybe that's why they shot me. Billy and Haley Dunn. We talked about that. Okay, here was a Hope for Haley Dunn Facebook group named Stacy. She was the admin, and she was the friend of Billy Dunn, the mother of Haley. And she says she's a nurse. She was doing secretarial work, and she was stripping. You know, she was actually taking up for Billy. Janice Freeman Driver says, now, buddy, I heard about Billy from a very reliable source, and that Haley was going with her as well, but staying in the dressing room while BD, Billy Dunn, worked the stripper pole, okay? And so 2 people confirmed, and that was hidden from the press, from the public by our press. That was a famous case. I mean, don't you think it's important that the mom's a stripper and her daughter disappears? You know, that's important. Okay, in this one, Michael Morales up here at the top, he said, I was told that she was pimped out to her father's wholesale friends. That would be Clint Dunn. I was told that the father would get up to $500 a piece. Well, maybe that's why Clint, you know, would never say anything about the multiple 10 people documented saying he was killed in Odessa, you know. I always wondered about that. Okay. Out here, that was the wrong one. And, come here. Okay. And here, this was a email I sent the Department of Justice on there it is, March 14, 2013, and I suggested they look in the underground homes for clues in disappearance of Haley Dunn. 2 days later, her remains are found in Scurry County. I kid you not. Here I suggest they go look in the underground homes where it's believed these parties going on. 2 days later, they find her remains. She's been missing for 2 years, you know. Cover up, cover up, cover up. Okay. Okay, now we're talking about Dickie, okay? Lieutenant Dickie Davis, Chatwell, Angel, and Hell, okay? And so what happened was Woodward and Naylor were seen in front of my house at 11:01, and 2 minutes later, Sergeant Davis is at my house, and he's not seen arriving. A couple more minutes later, Lieutenant Dickey's inside my house. There is no one in the house, inside, lots of odd things. So he's inside my house, and he wasn't seen driving up. And 3 minutes later, Woodward and Naylor were seen. And, you know, and so how did they get there? Well, they got there from the Home Depot tunnel, folks. They come in from under my home, and it was somebody under my home that shot me. Names are Davis, Dickey, Chatwell, Angel, and Hell. And there's the proof right there. It took 7 years to get that police report. They illegally withheld it from me. Here's the 11 secret police accidentally started a cam, caught themselves covering up the murder attempt on my life, right? I had to offer a reward, $2,000 reward. First time in the history of America, a crime victim offered a reward to identify police. Their names are Rosie Rodriguez, April Chandler, Tony Dickey, Greg Chatwell, Greg Nelson, Marty Barrett, CSI, Chad Simpson, Mike Naylor, Mark Gillum, Michael Glipp, John Woodward, and that's a Martin County sheriff, a guy from a whole nother Painter and Bush, okay? This is the sheriff that no longer alive, Gary Painter, and remember Joe Lozano was recorded saying his hideout was the underground homes. And here he is shaking hands with George Bush, the President of the United States, that's from Midland, Texas. It was said that the underground homes was put in for the Bushes. Ain't that interesting? Okay. Okay, now we're on to Michael Williams. Michael Sean Williams. He passed away October 28, 2010. Last day of the 2010 old show. And, you know, the timing was odd. Somebody took his picture and his name and his birthday, created a Facebook account, and sent me a friend request. We had these mutual friends: Jenna Marie, Rebecca Hurd Frills, Stephen Becca Dillon, Kelly Bennett, Stephanie Diane Bachman, and Todd Bozier. Okay, so maybe they know who the real person was, because this guy was dead, but he died on the last day of the oil show, and I took that as a clue. Okay, I think that was a clue. Okay, I contacted his wife, Timber, and she says he was 39. Cops were serving him a blue warrant to revoke his parole. He shot himself in the head, killed himself. Another person told me Michael didn't kill himself. They thought for the longest time his wife staged it. That'd be Timber. I don't know, but Mike was going to leave his wife because he found out a bunch of stuff about her. It freaked him out. Him and his brother were good friends. He was going to put it out there, but he died before he got the chance. Okay. I've suspected multi-billion-dollar oil companies were bribing or giving donations to law enforcement elected leaders, and that explains why we can't get nothing done here, regardless of the amount of evidence. And we'll show you here. This is from Pioneer. Okay, remember the first owner of my home was the engineer for Pioneer Oil Company. Pioneer gives $105,000 Midland Police Department, also to the Ector County Sheriff's Department, the Odessa Police Department, and the Midland County Sheriff's Office. They got it covered around here. I mean, ain't no law enforcement doing anything. I wonder why. Dane Wiggins, this was my supervisor for DCP. And I wrote him after I, survived a murder attempt. Hey, Dane, do you have the documentation of me reporting the 5 people who I believe had knowledge of people breaking them home, before the murder attempt on my life? He blocks me. I never talked to him again. And then my company laid him off. Ain't that amazing? Okay. Across the street at 3803 Fair Circle, okay, Ken Slager lived there. He was a commercial director for my company, DCB Midstream, before I moved there. He sold the house in 2006. And Marilyn DeLucia ended up buying it. She's the one that told me twice Mike Lon died in this house right here, and his death certificate says he died in Fort Worth. Okay, but interesting, they laid Ken Slager off too. His group took care of the oil booth at the oil shows, and all of our landmen reported up to the commercial group. Okay, and here, when I first moved here, showing I got 25 years service. In November 17, 2008. I had just barely moved to Midland when I got that award. Okay, now Matt Hyman. Matt Hyman suspected of being electrocuted in my house 2 weeks before the murder attempt on my life, and possibly his death was a motive for murder, because he died in my house, they blame me or whatever. He used to be a landman, then he became an attorney, okay, for Cotton, Bledsoe, Ty, and Dawson. And it was his sister-in-law was telling me how he died, because I didn't know how he died. If he died in a plane crash, I knew it wasn't him. But no, he had a heart defect. Nobody knew he had it. Well, was he messing with electricity? Electricity will stop the heart. I had put electricity on my doorknob to stop a home invasion. I knew people were in my house, and I think he grabbed my doorknob, and that got electrocuted. And then he also died at the same exact time that I had electricity on my doorknob. That was just more confirmation to me. And then his friend friends, landman, were threatening me, Brian Hillman, dude, you're barking up the wrong tree. And then Maria, she sees it and goes, are they always threatening you like this? And here's Chris Mertz right here says, I've answered for it. I would have answered for it face to face like a man, except the consequence. He's threatened me, and he was landman for my company, and reported up to Ken Slager, who used to live across the street. Here's Brian Hillman at the grocery store 2 or 3 years later, comes up, shakes my hand, and then threatens me at the grocery store. He said, you better watch your back. And I said, is that a threat? He says, yes, it is. And then he's smearing my name on Nextdoor, smearing my name on Facebook. I got print screens of all of it. And here's Chris Mertz. This is on YouTube. It's Chris M. One whack bird buddy at it again. Okay, this is the guy. These people won't stop, and these are landmen. I think they might have a connection to oil show parties, and legitimate police ought to be looking at this. Buddy Webb, Midland, Texas.